My name is Lilian Neg Kisob. I'm a Cameroonian writer. Actually, I'm in Bamenda for a short visit with my parents. I was born in Bamenda in 1979. So I grew up in first one in Bamenda where I started my studies. Then after I moved into Yaoundé where I had to make my primary education. Then further I went to Garoua with the secondary education in Yaoundé University where I completed my studies with a master's degree, because we call it maîtrise in French, but it's master's degree in English. I studied public international law. The purpose for me to write this book is humanitarian. You know, we are living in a context that things are not moving right. You know, in Africa we have so much development problem and development problem. So being in a context that you can see people they don't have ability to do things, and they are even more they wanted instead of developing themselves, they wanted instead to increase crisis. Things like war, because in most African countries we talk much about war. We don't talk much about development plans, and as Europe we are talking based on war, crisis. You see, even in a country that peace reign, you must hear about war. You know, for a time in Cameroon, we were talking about the Bakassi crisis, where our soldiers have to meet with the Nigerian soldiers and they have to make things. We had it for a long. So I asked myself, why is it that we have in Africa we cannot base ourselves in development like in Europe or in Asia? We are talking much about crisis, so it's not good. So I started thinking about this when I was still a child, because I started writing in 2003, but I have this already with the first war we had in 1992, where the American went in Iraq, but that we call the Gulf War. So I asked myself, why is it that country is more important? Why is it that they have to come twice? Because the first time was a Gulf War, then after is the Iraqi war. So I asked myself, maybe there's a problem. There's something that is not good. So I base myself on it. So I have to write something. I have to do something for the humanitarian crisis. The main story of the book, I can talk much about the terrorism attack. That's why the second part of my book I'm writing, I said that something that have increased the terrorism in the world. So why I put myself on terrorism? Because in Africa for quite some time we don't think about this type of thing. We will always talk about war, but not terrorism. So terrorism is something that we used to hear about in the eastern part of the world, that we call the Gulf people, the people from Asia and the Middle East. So we don't talk much about terrorism in Africa. The first part of the book, I'm talking much about the countdown of the war, how this started, the forces were there in Iraq. I'm talking about the American forces, the British, and much more the Iraqi forces. So I'm talking how in America they get themselves in Iraq and how they do, they condemn the regime of Saddam Hussein. So in that part, I'm bringing out the fact that they use a lot of weapons to get in touch of this, and the aspect of the war, who helped them, the other major country who helped America to get in touch in Iraq, and how the international community were not happy of that. So there were a lot of manifestation in the world. People were very angry. There were a lot of manifestation in the world, every part of the world, even in Africa. The international community refused the war. And the United Nations said that before they have to vote something like that, they have to be very sure of that. In that part, I'm talking about how the American troops went and how they succeeded to remove Saddam Hussein from the regime. That's the first part.
And do you think there will be any other reason than that, starting the war for America?
Because, you know, 2 years before, the Americans had a terrorist attack in their country. They had what we call the World Trade Center, the damages of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. So they went there because they had this. They said that we were attacked. Saddam Hussein regime were very powerful economically. The petrol system, they had the second in the world. The second part of the book is mainly an analysis and perspectives. There I'm bringing out my own point of view about the war. So I base myself in so many aspects. I'm talking about the humanitarian part, first of all. The people should respect the order of the United Nations. If when United Nations people said no war and no crisis, people should respect. And all the countries of the world, various countries, they're supposed to respect this. Because you know United Nations is based on solidarity of states. We are talking of solidarity. We are talking about to implement development plan and projects. That's why we talk about the goals of United Nations of 2001. They are talking about development rates. So it's better that people should get in touch of this type of thing instead of bringing the world to a war system. The states are not equal. They don't have the equal rights. Even the leaders of terrorism, they say that we want to make a world be more equitable. They don't. Some part of the world are so rich, others are too poor. So they want it to be balanced.
What do you think is the origin of terrorism?
The origin of terrorism, as I said, first of all, the first people who started the movement, they said that there's something that is not good in the world. People are not so, the world is not equilibrated. There are people who are so poor nation and rich nation. They will disturb. Bringing out terrorist attack is to disturb. They want to disturb the world. They want to make people understand that they are not happy. They will do much and more. And if people continue with that same spirit, then they will increase. So you can see when the terrorism attack, they are moving. It come gradually. Few years ago, there were no terrorists, but now every country in Africa, people are even speaking. For them, it's a natural thing to say that there were 2 bomb blasts in Nigeria. We thought in Cameroon that it was just something concerning Nigeria, but after we noticed that not only Nigeria, we have it in Mali. We have it also in Kenya. We have Shabab. They call it Shabab in Kenya. Then we noticed that there's a problem. There's a problem that we have to solve very fast, because country like Kenya or Uganda, they were peaceful country. They were talking about other things. The country that they love sports. In Kenya, for instance, they love sports. They made the best in athleticism. They love it. But now, they are not talking much about sport. They're talking about other things. So, I ask myself, it's not better for us to create something where people, they will have a very peaceful life.
Why do you think terrorists from the Middle East attacked Paris, for instance? What would be the reason for that happening?
They wanted to be, they call them coalition forces in Syria. They wanted to fight against the regime. But now the problem is that the terrorists, they don't like this approach. They say that France, they don't keep their words. They wanted to make France to understand that we don't like your policy in what you are doing. We will do it first of all in Africa, in your own territories. So if you don't get in touch of, we continue now with your own states. There's some aspect that maybe people don't understand, but we in Africa, maybe we can understand, but people don't understand. We can understand because we have a lot of development projects here in Africa that they are doing it here. But if I want just to talk about the terrorist attack in Paris, I will just first of all tell you that there are so many people from France who often go to Syria to fight. There are so many French people who move from France to go there and to fight. So they have grown the capacity. They have built a capacity that they should go and fight and they come back in that country and destroy it. France don't want terrorists to move ahead. That's my own point of view, because France gradually, even the police system, they are fighting against terrorism more than the other countries of the world. And they don't fight. They don't use closed door. They are fighting out, because other countries are fighting terrorism, but they are not engaged. But France is engaged in terrorism. All terrorism plan, France is engaged. So they prefer to fight against the one that people know about, like a very rich country, a country with so many aspects. If they fight against, if they send an attack in France, so the other country in the world should understand that if they can do it in France, so they can do it also in Britain, and they can do it also in other part of the world. I believe that there's different type of terrorism. The one in Africa is different from the one in Europe, and it's different from one that is in Asia and everything. So I believe there's terrorists are different from each part of the world, because the reasons are different. The one in Africa, that they're talking about much religion. They don't like Christian, don't like Muslim. They are doing terrorism. But in Asia, for instance, it's not the same thing. In Western, what we call in Syria, Iraq, and the rest, it's not the same thing, because there it's mostly economic problem. It's not the same problem that we have here that they have there. So I believe that terrorism is not the same thing in every part of the world.
If you look at the terrorism as it appears in the world, and what is the common thing about all terrorism?
The common thing is that they use the same way that they're fighting. Maybe like they have the same method to fight. The main purpose of terrorism is economic. For me, why I'm talking of economy, because you see, something they're fighting, the poor countries are fighting the rich one. For me, the terrorism is poor country fighting the rich one. Because even the one in Africa, they are talking about, we don't want the Western war, because the Western war, they don't give we much. They instead take much of us, of our things. They don't give you much, they take much. In Syria, it's the same thing. They say that we are fighting because our resources, we don't have much. The Western world, they have much than what we have. So I strongly believe that to fight against terrorism, we have to build a very powerful economic plan of the world. I have to change everything from the Western war to the Eastern war. They have to change everything, every aspect. Things are going to be better, because when you see what they talked of, even when the former leader of Al Qaeda died, he said that we want a world that people will have the same opportunities. People have the same opportunities. People can, they will have the same facilities, but now we don't have the same thing, because they have, so the country that people are poor, and they are poor, and the system is becoming poorer and poorer, whereas the others are rich, and the system is going richer and richer. Even in Nigeria, you see the eastern part is more, the one of the north is poorer, whereas the south is rich. They don't have the same facilities. So you see where they have Boko Haram is one of the poorest states of Nigeria. They don't have anything there. So what they want is economic. They want their economy to grow, so that everybody will have facilities. Then they will no more have a terrorist. Even in Syria, what the Syrian population do, they have to move from the country to Europe. They died in the sea because they said that the situation is too bad. They are not feeling comfortable in their country. They have to go out of the country and to find for good solution. So if there's solution, everybody has a solution, everything will be perfect. If I have my solution in my country, I will not see why I'm going to another country. If I can have everything I want in my country, I will stay. But if you see, maybe I want something I don't have, I must go out. I must say that I'm going to Europe, because maybe the economic situation in Europe is better than Africa, so I must move there. And you see, they will move there, and when they are moving, there are some groups that are moving with them. There are terrorist groups that are moving with them, and when they move, they'll have now they'll try to convince their own counterpart that what we are doing here, we have to do something here to disturb them because they are living fine, whereas we are not living fine in our country. So at times terrorists come from that country to come on. They come and place their attack in maybe in Paris, as you said it. They said that one of the terrorists of Paris, he was one of people, he came from the Arab states. So he can move with the idea of doing things in France. That now I'm in a developed country, it's better that I should do it here, so that people will understand that all of us, we are not in a very good mood. But I myself, I believe that if we have a very good development system here, facilities, I'm sure Europe will not be the place that people will go. People will instead come in Africa because we have riches. We have so many riches in Africa we don't even exploit. People don't even know. I believe my first solution that I would put in place, first of all, is to help people to understand that they can be comfortable where they are. That means create a situation where people are more comfortable. My first solution is that make people to feel free where they are. They will not move. Nobody can love their country more than them. Nobody can love Syria more than Syrian. American cannot love Syria more than Syrian. French cannot love Syrian more than Syrian. So they have to develop themselves. So terrorists, for me, to fight against this is to bring out all the various groups. I believe that we know all the groups of terrorists in the world. We know all of them. We call some Shebab, we call another Al-Qaeda and so on. So they have a leader. They have leaders. So it's better that they should understand. People should come and ask for what are their purpose, what are the main reason for them to build a powerful weapon to destroy. Because all what they have is to destroy. Terrorists don't love development. They like to destroy. So even in Boko Haram, you can show maybe call the Boko Haram leaders and ask, really, we notice that you love to destroy the part of Nigeria. We have taken the part of Nigeria that we have decided that nothing can happen, no development can happen there. So what is your main purpose? What do you want? Do you want that this state should not be a part of Nigeria, just your state? Or do you want to include yourself in Nigeria, then helping to develop Nigeria by bringing your own point of view? Because maybe your own point of view can help.
Do you know of any journalists that are interviewing terrorists?
I myself, I think I don't. I've never seen I've never seen let's talk about an interview between a terrorist and a journalist, because they said that it's difficult to approach them. It's difficult to approach them. The leader of Boko Haram, he said it in one of our media that, your president, I don't want you to talk about our movement because you don't have anything to do with us. You have, first of all, to understand the person. You understand the person. You say, okay, now that you say that your main problem is that we don't believe in this type of thing. And if we don't believe in this type of thing, what are your solutions? They can ask them what are their solution, because maybe they have their own solution. We need to know why is it that they are doing all this. So you can ask them, first of all, what are your solutions? What are your plans of action? Maybe they will come out that we are not happy. We don't tolerate this type of thing. That's why we are doing this. We don't tolerate the fact that we are not living in a good condition. We are always at the bottom. We are never at the leading position. So that's what I'm talking. So it's better that we should know more about those groups. We should fight for, we have, first of all, to making ourselves understand that we want to know more about them. I would like to work in any type of international organization where the humanitarian approach is very high. For me, working in the United Nations system is going to be something very important for me, because I would like to give my own approach for development rate in the world, particularly in my country, and why not in Africa.